as the earth, the breasts in this painting are carbon sinks, which are the best way the only way that carbon is actually sucked out of our atmosphere. So in terms of environmental preparedness, the last thing we should be doing is getting rid of any marshes or, swamps or or anything, or forests, that help us take the carbon out of the atmosphere. And then the rest of her was built around the idea of a strong feminine in a mountain, which is something I've wanted to portray for a long time. And but I didn't ever, when I was thinking about that, conceive of sort of challenging that with oil. This is actually a coal seam at her neck, and this is a fracking seam in her stomach. And you can see one of the things, it was bad before Trump, but one of the things that Trump did that was heinous was take away the ban on dumping coal ash in fresh water. So that is represented here. And I wanted to have images of sort of violence against the earth and violence against women. And I didn't, I had a problem with sort of representing that a lot, So this kind of work for me was actually going into the body and showing the real things that we're doing. And then here is someone basically enforcing laws that restrict a woman's right to reproductive liberty. And I wasn't sure how I was going to portray that for a while. I've had many sort of images in my head about it, but in the end, on the bench, the woman is sitting with a nurse. And instead of saying family planning or, reproductive liberty, I thought about what I was going to say. I used the word compassion because that goes back to my father, who was a Methodist minister, and much of my childhood he spent defending a woman's right to choose, among other liberties for people. So that kind of came to me at the end. And then these two images here are so that I can talk about what a lot of people may not know is that the oil companies Chevron and Shell committed some heinous murders in Nigeria, and I think it was in the 90s. And a poet activist, and there are a lot of artist activists and musician activists. He found out, there was a poet activist in Nigeria that found out that Shell was cooperating with the Nigerian government to put in all these polluting oil companies, right? And Shell and the government collaborated to have this man arrested and people that he worked with and then hung. So Shell eventually had to pay for that crime, and they paid near $2 million for that to the families that were affected by it. Chevron did the same thing to a group of activists. They didn't have them tried and hung. Chevron actually helped hire Kill and Go, which is basically a guerrilla murdering outfit. And there were some young protesters protesting Amen. So I'm making a film about this, and one of the things that I talk about is that most of Europe and several American states have actually banned fracking. California hasn't. It's actually expanded a lot under during. Coal, as far as the coal states, like 25 American states still use coal, and next year, Jerry Brown tried to do it this year, but he couldn't get away with it for some reason. He's trying to expand our electrical grid with other states that are full states, and instead of having state control over it, it would be a private board of energy executives that would be in charge of our electric grid, all the other states. I know. So it's just like bad news. I know. So that's why I create this work, is to inform people about, what's going on in the world, and just get people thinking about, what's out there. So, and then we, the people, have probably already gone over my time.
You have 60 seconds.
Is about, that's a tough one. It's basically, the concept of fear versus liberty, and fear is on the right, and liberty is on the left, and in the middle is our immigration problem and jail problem, and I'm happy to talk about it if you want, so thank you.
So can we take a question before we make one other question?